This lesson is about finding the main idea and then figuring out from that main idea really what conclusions can you draw from the paragraph or the passage, and we call that inferencing. In science, you might call that hypothesizing, so a hypothesis, but in ELA, we often say we're making inferences. Educated guesses are more like insights to the information that we discover through writing and reading. Okay, so when we're thinking about finding the main idea, like that's one of the most important things you can do as you are reading critically and develop critical reading skills. And that central or main idea, right, is also often contributing to the theme. And it also is a starting point that you need in order to analyze text at a deeper level. And then one distinction that's really important, think about the main idea as the universal idea. So we've spent a lot of time this year talking about universal ideas being those abstract ideas or abstract things, abstract nouns. They're things that you cannot touch, see, hear, feel, taste, buy, sell, right? Things that we all globally, universally experience and kind of recognize exist, but for each one of us, they're different. So, we've been talking a lot about some simple, basic, common universal ideas might be love, hate, fear, beauty, those type of things that are abstract, right? They exist differently for everybody, although we all can recognize them, and they are ideas. They're not facts, right? So same thing, when you read something, we always have to kind of be looking for different layers when we read, okay? One layer is the idea layer, and to really check yourself to make sure that you are, in fact, getting to that layer, you're really looking for universal ideas. We also call that the main idea. All right, so that's the idea level. That's actually like a deeper level. The surface levels would be what's going on. Who's talking? Are these, what kind of people or characters are they? If it's fiction, what is the setting? What is the place, right? So who, what, when, where, why, kind of the surface, that would be the summary. And then we dig deeper and we're discovering the more analytical thinking, getting to the idea. So there's surface summary and then deeper universal idea or main idea. And that contributes to the theme, right? They're related because one, you dig further, deeper underneath the same space that rests at the surface. So this is often a huge misconception or like missed opportunity when students read and they're asked to find the main idea. Many students will tell, what happened. So they're going to be talking about summary. They're going to be talking about the plot, what the characters do, what happened. That's not it. So the main idea, not what happened, the main idea, check yourself against what you know about universal ideas, abstract nouns. So on a test like MCAS or Illuminate or the SAT or the AP, when you are asked to find the main idea, sometimes it will be find the theme of this passage, find the central idea. Okay, so those are synonymous with main idea and universal idea. So it's not paraphrasing. It's not a retelling of the story in your own words. It's not a summary. And so it's not about, talking about the events. Okay. The summary, the surface, right, definitely is related to the deeper main idea. If you don't understand the summary, if you don't understand what's happening, then you're going to really struggle to understand that main idea. That's why we have to think of those two things, one happening leading to the other. So you do first and foremost have to think, okay, what's happening? What are the events? Who are the characters? Where are we in this story or in this passage? And within that, it's, Three things. What do the characters do, the actions, or what, if you're not reading fiction, if it's informational text, then what what happened? How are characters affected? And then what is the result or the impact? Okay. And then specifically that impact or result informs the main idea. Okay. Again, we have this back and forth between the two important levels of reading, or things that your brain has to do kind of at the same time. And then the questions you can ask yourself first and foremost at that surface level is what just happened, what was the result, and then deeper level would be how does the character feel, right? What is that adjective? And then turn the feeling word into a noun. So this is actually important. Feelings and emotions, we can turn those around. Those feelings and emotions are descriptions. Those are adjectives, okay? I feel happy. Okay, that's an adjective, happy. But if we flip that adjective into a thing, into a noun, we'll have a universal idea. So I am happy, I feel happy, right? But I have happiness. So you might want to think, for me, sometimes I think it's easier to think of that emotion or feeling word, like how does this character feel? He feels angry. All right, then a universal idea or main idea of that particular section of text could in fact be anger, frustration, right? And all the other words that stem from anger. So one trick that I use is think how the character feels. That's an adjective, that's a description. It's not an idea, but flip it into a noun and you have the idea. You have the theme, you have the main message. So in order to flip it, I like to think of I feel or I am would be the adjective. I feel or am sad. I have sadness, right? I carry sadness. So the two words that I like to use to determine if it's a universal idea and to turn an adjective into a universal idea would be have or carry, right? Do the have or carry test. I have happiness. I mean, yes, I have happiness. I feel happiness. More so, you feel happy. Okay. All right. All right. So again, we just have turn the word into a noun. That's exactly what I just talked about. I got ahead of myself. And we talked about this. It was Miss Crowley's birthday. She looked at her birthday cake with a smile, feeling that this year is going to be the best year of her life. Okay, what happened? She was celebrating her birthday. That's the surface level. You're repeating what happened. But now you want to get to that deeper, more analytical, critical thinking level of the idea. And one way to do that is to think, how does she feel? What was the emotion? She felt happy. Okay, then flip that, turn it into a thing, and you get a main idea, the happiness part. Important to note that central idea, main idea, universal idea, they all mean the same thing. Theme can even be thrown in there too. On a test, you're going to encounter central and main idea and theme, but universal idea won't be on a test, okay? So you have to think they're all the same thing. I do use universal idea heavily because it is how I was trained to teach AP, advanced placement, and it's like the number one thing you can do as a thinker and a writer to get you to the critical thinking and writing level. I always tell students finding a universal idea is the thing you should do when you're writing, especially. And writing for the advanced placement exam has to be idea based. So I always will go back to universal idea. So we're going to focus in on Jesus Colón's Little Things Are Big. It's a very short text. You know, on one hand, you can read the text and think it's super simple, but not if you dig down and you question and you get to the inferencing level, which is figuring out the emotions of the characters and then flipping them into those universal ideas, and you're thinking about digging deeper to that main idea. I also want to talk about from that main idea, you can make claims, right? So you're building inferences, you're making these statements. As long as the claim contains a universal idea, it's a great claim for a thesis. It will be debatable. It will always have those two angles to it. Again, that's why universal idea is so important. It will make it a debatable claim. So I want to talk about two ways that you can find a universal idea or main idea. One is finding it, well, the two sides would be what you see and what you don't see. And I know that sounds strange, but when you're reading a text, there are specific ideas that are actually printed on the page, right? If it says this character felt happiness, that could be a universal idea, and it is directly stated on the page. So that would be a direct or explicit reference to a universal idea directly printed on the page. But then what I want to push us to going into junior year and going into AP, being ready for college, would be thinking about the indirect or the implicit or implied. So note the in-ims, right, that start those words. And those are all thinking, they're kind of hidden. Like if you think about invisible, right? So they exist, but you have to infer them. They're not directly on the page. And that's forcing your brain to think at a more critical thinking level. So think about that. Making more indirect or implicit inferences that are not stated in the text, and finding those universal ideas that you think of from the text, but they're not directly printed on the page. And then setting is important because setting influences the main idea of the story, right? Again, we're not repeating, oh, it happened in New York. Well, that's okay, that's a fact. But if you take a look at Cologne's story, there's evidence, right, that we can point to, and we can make an inference based off of that evidence that tells us, oh, okay, this is it's a subway station. It's really late at night. There's no one there. Okay, so what inferences can we make using those pieces of the setting as clues? And how might someone feel being in a subway station late at night, no one around? They might feel isolated. They might feel alone. They might feel fear or scared. So those are inferences, more critical thinking, right? Universal ideas, main ideas that come from the setting. So think of like the setting is almost like a character, because you can read into it based off of how the author describes the setting. If it happened in an open field with sunflowers and the bright sun and birds chirping, those are the facts, right? Those things that are factual, we can see them. But what does that imply? What is the indirect or implicit, invisible layer of idea that we can attach to that? It's happy, it's peaceful. Peace, it is, it's a good thing, right? All right, so this is the text. I divided it, again, super short. I divided it into the chunks of paragraphs, and ultimately you want to highlight specific words or phrases of the main idea in each paragraph. All right, so if I say, sometimes one thing happens to change our life, how you look at things, how you look at yourself. I remember one particular event. It was when 1955, 56, a long time ago. Anyway, I'd been working at night. I wrote for the newspaper, and we had deadlines. It was late, after midnight, on the night before Memorial Day. I had to catch a train back to Brooklyn, the West Side IRT. Okay. So, your job is to find and highlight a main idea of this paragraph. Like, what is the main idea? Again, it's not he was working late at night and rode the subway home. That's the surface. That's what happened. That's a summary. It's a retelling of what happened. So we need to dig deeper and figure out an implicit indirect, universal idea. And, it could be change. It could be, and that is in here, right? I see it, so that would be direct. He hasn't changed though, right? He's just telling us that he will change, something will change. He's alluding to that, right? Hinting at that. So for this one, I might do perspective. I could do perspective, right? I could look, this person is talking about there are ways to change your life. And so this speaker recognizes that. And then how you look at things, how you look at yourself. And so I'm guessing that this person is very thoughtful, introspective. So I might choose something like introspection. I might do, I don't know, sensitivity. I might do thoughtfulness, right? Adding that ness to being thinking person. I think I said introspection or perspective, right? Because it's about, I can see myself one way and see myself another way. And if a person starts off a story talking about that, you kind of get that from this person right away. And that's going to set the tone for the rest of the story. So again, you do that for each one of these paragraphs. And then to finish this activity, this is about making claims about main ideas and finding evidence to back up those claims. So section 1, we already talked about. Section 2 is this fun little spin the wheel, which you click here and it's just a wheel of universal ideas. And so I'm not going to spin it because it's a little annoying. It plays a song. And this we can ignore. But you spin it and it'll land on a universal idea. And so you don't have a choice. Whatever universal idea it lands on, you would then have to prove that that is the main universal idea of this whole passage, not just a paragraph, the whole thing. If you land on Jesus Colón's picture, you can choose whatever universal idea you wish. It is an honor system. I don't really know if you, in fact, did spin to that particular idea. And then, so here it is, which idea is conveyed. This one is which idea is conveyed through the setting of the story. So we talked about that, how the setting really influences and what we can infer from a setting based on those factual details. And then we would then answer this question, how does this universal idea, how is it conveyed by the setting? So here we have to spin the wheel. And if we get courage, let's say the example says, I would then have to write evidence and reasoning. I would first make a claim about courage. The main idea in Jesus Colón's story is courage because I just have to come up with why. That's the claim. And then evidence. You'd have to find the evidence and the reasoning together. So look at this frame, specifically the part of the story where he talks about blank, courage, independence conveys courage as the main idea because. So adding that because in both the claim right here and the evidence, I'm going to highlight this, gets us closer to the reasoning part, right? Digging deeper. Critical thinking. And then this time we're going to spin the wheel again, getting a lot of use out of that wheel. And then we are going to have to oppose it. And this forces your brain to flip. And so you have to say, Colón's story is not about whatever universal idea you land on because, and then specifically the part of the story where he talks about blank, you figure out what that evidence is, conveys whatever the opposite of that universal idea is. So if I spin the wheel, let's go back to this fantastic wheel, and I get fear, okay, then I'm going to go here and I'm going to say, Colón's story is not about fear because you're going to tell me why it's not about fear. Doesn't matter what you think individually, right? We know that attorneys and lawyers have to prove positions of sides that they just don't believe in or clients they don't believe in. So take yourself out of it. You are objective and you are making a statement based on what is given to you, and you're going to have to find it. So then we're going to provide evidence and reasoning, specifically the part of the story where he talks about, going to give me specific evidence to show that it is not about fear. Conveys the opposite of fear as the main idea, because. So you might even want to say, what is the opposite of fear? Conveys courage as the main idea, because. So this is it is confusing because it's asking your brain, it's like splitting your brain up in different sections, and it's saying, all right, here's first way is that you have to spin the wheel to get what you have to prove it is about and give evidence. And that might not even be what you think it's about, but it doesn't matter. If you spin the wheel and get it, you go for it. So you're slicing your brain, and then you're doing it again by flipping it and saying it is not about. In fact, it is the opposite of, because. And that gets hard. But it's an important skill to have, to be nimble and flexible with our thinking. So that is this. It's read and identify, spin, defend, oppose. Wow, look at that. That's amazing. I hope this helped.